platform. Basically, what you need to know from the platform are the interfaces, and this is the basic information you need. But knowing a little bit more about the insights, you don't have to master them, but knowing about them is always useful, and hope you find the information that Nikos will provide useful, and then, as I said, focus on the interfaces, but always good to know a little bit more. So now, Nikos, the floor is yours.
So hello everyone from my side as well. So and welcome to the FIESTA community. My name is Nikos Kefalakis and I work with Ansys Information Technology. We main focus from our side with the interaction of the testbed provider with the FIESTA IoT platform, and I'm going to provide an overview of the platform architecture and how it interacts with the testbed providers. So I hope everyone can see the presentation, right?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So essentially, testbed provider interface and the required components that need to be to make it functional is a collection of REST APIs that the testbed provider needs either to provide, so they need to build some web services that are going to consume from the FIESTA platform, or the FIESTA platform provides to the testbed provider in order to facilitate the integration and management, the pluggability of their testbed to the FIESTA platform. Along with this testbed provider interface, as I mentioned, there are other components, the core of the FIESTA platform that facilitate the functionality of this setup. So the components, the two main layers that these components are divided are the testbed side, where we can find the components and the libraries that the testbed provider will need to set up and generate. So we have first and most important, the data semantic annotator, where you need to map your data with the FIESTA IoT ontology that was presented before from Rachid. Then we have the testbed provider services, where you need to implement and service that is going to be consumed from the FIESTA platform in order to retrieve your annotated measurements. And now from the FIESTA side, we have the authentication and authorization component, where you need to use it in order to log into the system, or to push data if you choose to the system. We have the validator component, where you are going to validate your annotated data, either if these are metadata or the actual measurements. We have the IoT registry, which is the heart of the FIESTA IoT platform, where all the metadata and resources and measurements are stored, and also it provides some additional tools that, as I mentioned, facilitate the functionality of the platform. We have the testbed and resource registration, which you're going to use in order, first and foremost, to register your testbed, and then register each of your resources. So this provides a user interface and actually some web services that if you choose to use. We have the TPI configurator user interface, which you're going to use in order to configure how your platform, how your testbed is going to be accessed from the FIESTA platform. We have the data management service, which is managing the data that are retrieved from the FIESTA platform. We have a message bus that it is used internally in order to push the messages, and we have a dispatcher for this message bus which is going to consume the messages that are pushed there and forward them to the validator and to the storage of the platform. So a high-level overview of what the platform and how the components look like and interact is depicted in this figure. So in the lower layer, as I mentioned, we have the testbed side, where you already have your sensors and maybe a data repository that you store your measurements. And then above this, we have your proprietary interface or standard interface that you expose, so you can either access your data with a relational database or have a more specific REST API like NGSI, or be annotate data, and so you expose a Sparkle endpoint. So you need to build above this the data semantic annotation, as I mentioned, that's going to translate this proprietary interface into FIESTA IoT ontology. And then we have the TPS interface, where you're going to provide a web service that we're going to consume. So you're going to either push your data, or you're going to, or we are going to get your data for you. And in the higher layer, we have the FIESTA IoT platform part side. So we have the testbed and the resource registration components, where we will provide you a user interface in order for you to register your testbeds and register your resources. And these are stored to the testbed registration data storage and the resource registry data storage. So here we keep the metadata of your testbeds and resources. Then we have in this after this you're going to use the TPI configurator in order to configure how your data is going to be retrieved from the TPS. So let's say that you identify a specific time period for your data to be retrieved. So this will be configured in the data management service here, and in a specific time period it will going to call your interface in order to retrieve the data. These data are then pushed to the message bus, and message bus dispatcher that have already subscribed to the message bus collect the annotated measurements, pass them through the validator, so these are validated and are then finally, as a final step, stored to the Meta Cloud data storage. So I'm going to present to you the main interactions that you're going to have with the FIESTA IoT platform in the form of sequence diagrams, and explain you a little bit more details, explain you in high level, let's say, of what in details is going to be presented to you later on in the next presentations. So I'm going to provide the testbed registration procedure, the resource registration procedure, the TPI configuration, and the TPI runtime, and how all the system works and it is managed. Before, as a prerequisite to these steps, we presume that the data semantic annotator has already been built by you, and the testbed provider services as well is already provided and set up and exposed by you. So for the testbed registration, the components that are required are the authentication and authorization, the testbed resource registration the core and the UI of it. The validator is used, and finally the IoT registry for saving the testbed, the annotated testbed is required. For this, a user interface is going to be provided that's going to be presented later on. And the interaction for this is the first step is for you to log in to the testbed registration user interface, and then a procedure starts from the testbed registration in order to from your credentials to retrieve your token ID, and then from the security component, and then from your token ID to retrieve additional information from you, like your user ID, your role, what you can access, etc. But this happens internally to the platform. Then from the testbed registration user interface, the already registered testbeds are retrieved in order to be listed to you. So now you are able to start a new testbed registration, to initialize this process. So you need to provide an annotated resource script in order to be validated from the validator components. So this is required in order for you to proceed to be able to register your testbed, that you have a valid registration script. So as soon as the validation is successful, you can enter your testbed information, so the services that you expose, your API key if you have one, in order if you want for FIESTA IoT platform to securely access the services that you expose. And finally, you register the testbed. And this information is stored to the testbed registration data storage for the non-semantic data. And the semantic data are stored to the resource registry data storage by using the services that IoT registry exposed. So the next step is to register your resources. Again, you need the authentication and authorization. You will use the authentication and authorization component, the testbed resource registration user interface, the validator in order to validate your scripts, and finally the IoT registry to store the annotated metadata. Again, for this, we are offering a user interface that is going to be presented in details in the next session. So coming to the sequence diagram, I guess again I will skip the first step, which is your authentication and receiving the token ID and the information for you based on your profile, and then you initialize from the portal user interface the resource registration UI from the portal menu. So what happens first is again retrieving all the available testbeds that have been registered by you. So you can pick a testbed, which is a prerequisite to have a registered testbed in order to be able to register a resource, because a resource is bound to a specific testbed. So you pick the testbed of interest, and now you can enter the annotated script in order to be validated that you have again a valid resource script. After the successful validation, you are able now to start adding new resources to your testbed, and this data are again stored to the testbed registration data storage and then the resource registry data storage. This sequence diagram is more specific to one-by-one resource registration. So and from the UI by utilizing the UI that we offer. For more advanced user, you can identify your resource script and again, we offer the interface from the UI in order to register multiple resources by once. So this is again going to be presented later on. Now the next step is to, after having successfully registering your testbed and your resources, now you need to configure on how your testbed is going to be accessed. So there are two ways to be accessed. Either we are getting data from you, or you are pushing data to us. So now I'm going to describe the procedure of getting data from you essentially, but the pushing is almost the same. So from the testbed side, we're going to need the testbed provider services, the TPS. So essentially the web services that are exposed from it. The authentication and authorization component, the testbed and resource registration. So this is access to retrieve your data from the already registered testbed and resources. The IoT registry for the data storage. The TPI configurator user interface, which is the screenshot provided here, which is also going to be presented in a later session in more details how it is used, and the data management services. So the sequence and the flow of this procedure is, again, first you need to log into the portal. These steps that I described in the beginning is if you are doing this in one-off. I mean, you don't need to, of course, to log in every time to use this UI. You just log into the portal and use the different user interfaces with the first login. So now you can start, after the login procedure, now you can start and open the TPI configuration user interface and start the setup. So the first thing that it is done is after retrieving your token and user ID, we retrieve the already registered testbeds. The registered testbed reads. So if you have more than one testbed, you can choose pick one, and then you can list all the resources of this testbed that you have registered in the previous steps. So as I mentioned, you pick the testbed, and then we retrieve the resources from the resource registry data storage, and then you can pick a list of your resources. You can identify then how these resources are going to be accessed. So you define your TPS endpoint. You pick your API key that if it is required in order for this web services to be accessed, and then you store by registering this. You start an execution. You start a job and execution schedule that it is going to be executed in a stable time period that has been defined by you in order to retrieve your data, which is the procedure that I'm going to describe in the next slide. So what happens after you have configured the TPI and you have configured the method to retrieve your data? So again, what is going to be required is your TPS that's going to be accessed, the IoT registry in order to store the observation, the data management service that is going to manage the job that it has been scheduled, the message bus that the annotated measurements are pushed, and the message bus dispatcher which collects the data in order to store them to the IoT registry. So the sequence diagram that describes this procedure is depicted in this slide. So from the DMS scheduler that you have defined, that you have configured from the previous step, now an execution schedule loop gets initiated and executed in the time period that you have defined. So the step is to send a request to your testbed, to the TPS services that you expose, with a time period if you configure get observations, or you can configure also to get the last observation. So we just send you the sensor list, and you need to reply to us a document with the annotated measurements of the defined sensor list that we sent to you. So then the next step from the DMS component is to push this data, the annotated document with the document type that you have used to the message bus, and the message bus dispatcher that has subscribed for these messages gets informed that a new measurement has arrived. So collect these measurements, pass it through the validator, and finally store it to the MetaCloud data storage. So essentially, this is the sequences and the steps that you need to follow and are going to be described in more detail later on. So if you have questions, please let me know, or we can pass to the next presentation.
Hi, Nicholas here. I have a question about resource registration. So you showed the way to do it via the UI, but we wondered if it was possible to automate the resource registration based on a batch file that described a whole bunch of resources through an API, or if you had to do it manually through the UI for all resources.
Yes, of course. I mean, as I mentioned, it's going to be provided from the user interface a specific UI, a specific tool, in order for you to be able to either upload a batch file as a zip, or enter your script manually. And this, of course, I mean, this is going to be clarified more later on, that this tool is going to be presented.
Okay, thanks.
So are there any other questions?
Thierry from us. Another question about the schedule of push or get data from the testbed. What are you attend in terms of period? Is it sort of real time every, I don't know, every minute, or could it be every day? We push all the data every day. What would you like to do? What do you prefer?
So this is essentially defined and identified by the testbed provider. So if you choose, you can push your data, or the platform to get the data from you every minute, or to push them once per day. But I mean, we have a restriction of how big will be the file that you push one per day. I mean, we have to test this, ability, and I mean, we invite you also to test this and to fine tune on the capabilities of the system from this aspect.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I don't know if there are further questions. I think that, I mean, what Nikos has just said is an important aspect that we shouldn't forget about, is that let's say we have our own practices for the test beds that come from the partners, from the FIESTA partners, but for your own test beds, I think that these practices, I mean, we can introduce you what we do as kind of inspiration, if you want to call it like this, but you have to, let's say, fine-tune your own integration, your own federation of your infrastructure in Fiesta, and this is this will be also a kind of experimental process, and only after accomplishing it and while doing it, we will be able to fine tune it, and I think that it's important to keep this in